Foreclosures. Are we headed for another crash like 2008?
Today, Alan
and Betsy
are going to tell you about the latest going on in the foreclosure world in real estate. So, I hate to interrupt our podcast here, but it's really important to us. If you like hearing this information and you want to give us some ideas even, give us a comment and then subscribe and follow us below so that we can keep bringing it to you. Now back to the show. You know, lots of times people just watch national news, and national news, their goal is to get more eyes on it and more people to watch it. So what they do is they lead.
Negative. It's a scare tactic.
Yes. So is foreclosure activity rising? Actually, yes, it is. But here's the big thing. If you want to look at this slide, it'll show you that in 2007, 2008, 2009, it is way up there. And even though we have the least little bit rise, it's still one of the lowest times in history for the amount of foreclosures we have. Is it
in history?
Is it a little bit higher than it was the last 2 years? Yes. But a little bit higher is nowhere near what we were looking at. Some people want to make you think foreclosures are headed toward where they were in 2007, 8, and 9. And they absolutely are not headed that way.
No, because the banks, what people, and that's something big to discuss, is that in 2008 and 9, that collapse was caused by the mortgage industry. Mm-hmm. And then the mortgage industry was completely reconfigured, and they have had so many different...
Well, I mean, what they did is they put in all these safeguards for making sure qualifications were stronger. Back in the day, I was in real estate back then. I can tell you that anybody pretty much could get a loan.
You can breathe.
For whatever they wanted.
You get a house.
Everything was basically no doc, no qualification, stated income. So, hey, I make $500,000 a year. You do? Well, this says you work at McDonald's. Yeah, but I make $500,000 a year at McDonald's. Okay, it wasn't quite that bad, but it was pretty close. And so what happened was stated income loans. You could say I made this much income, and if you had the down payment, you were getting approved. And so things changed. In fact, here is an interesting fact. It's not on my slides, but I will tell you this. Over 40% of the houses in the country have more than 50% equity in their house.
We do have that slide.
Oh, we do have a slide? Yeah. Okay, we got a slide that says that.
And it's actually,
okay.
It's higher than that.
So 40%, 39.3% here are free and clear.
Free and clear.
Actually, they're actually free and clear.
70-something%.
And another 27%.
2/3 have paid. Yeah.
So when we look at this, if there's a huge amount of equity, huh? It's a slide. And so if you look at this, over the difference in history was back in 2007, 8, and 9, there was almost no equity in properties because of these stated income loans and these low down payments, no down payments. Everybody was getting in. So that's the big difference. However, here's what's causing this nervousness is 3 out of 4 Americans have said they're not quite comfortable with their financial situation. And that's caused because a lot of things are going on in the economy. The fact is we have seen an unprecedented rise in home prices for years and years. We've been on this upward rise since about 2011. Of course, 2020 hit when COVID hit, and it took a steep rise. And even since then, depending on the market, they've still gone up. Our market, they've still gone up some. Well, guess what's happened? The salaries have not increased with the house price rises. Right. So now here's the problem. The business owners can't increase salaries at that pace. It just can't happen. They can't operate because what happens if the business owner has to increase salaries at that pace, then their prices increase at that pace, and everything you buy will go through the roof. If they had to, we've seen that some, especially I think personally in the restaurant industry, the cost of going out to eat has risen dramatically.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And that's because a lot of employers employed minimum wage people in their restaurants, and there was a big push across the country to raise minimum wages, and they've raised minimum wages, and by doing that, any business that functioned off minimum wage employees has had to raise their prices. So what's happened is economically, the rest of the people that were not on minimum wage, their salaries have not increased, either the percentage that these businesses had to raise their price or that homes have gone up. And so because of that, it's become more and more difficult to buy a home. And that's causing stability problems, because one of the biggest things about home ownership, there was pride of ownership. You owned it, you could do what you want to with it. It was an equity, almost like a forced savings account over a long period of time. If you ever looked at any 10-year window, it was a forced savings account. And then B, that it gave you an investment that you felt like you were contributing to, even if you weren't saving a lot of money on the other side. Well, now people are renting longer and longer. We saw for the first time, the average first-time buyer hit 40 years old.
Right, which is insane to me.
So when that happens, they don't have stability in their life up until that point. They're renting. They're in an apartment. They're moving.
Rentals are getting crazy too.
And so Americans right now, they just don't feel financially secure. So when they see that headline on national news, foreclosure alert, they panic. But it is not anywhere near where it used to be.
No, and the one thing that people don't realize is because there's so much equity that people have in their homes. And the reason they have so much equity is because these homes have risen so much in what their value is and worth, is that homeowners, they are prioritizing those over anything. I mean, these people will miss a car payment, they will miss a credit card bill, they will miss anything else before they would miss a mortgage payment, because they're not going to do that. And another thing is we'll see people who will reach out, and there's so many ways that, I mean, if you're sitting there with $200,000 in equity in your house, hopefully before you would lose that house, you would be calling an agent going, hey, I want to sell this because I am going to go
get my equity and downsize or move.
I can go buy a house with that.
I can go to a different market. And you know, that's what Betsy says. Unfortunately, some people get to the foreclosure point, they actually do, before they panic. And what you need to understand is that when you look at the graph, what we'll have it go up on the chart is, like, say, the people 90 days or more behind on their mortgage is actually down. The concern right now is, though, the people 90 days or more behind on credit cards is higher. And the amount of credit card debt is higher than it's been in a lot of years. Mm-hmm. And that's because as the economy, as the price of gas, as the price of groceries, the price of eating out, all of these things, consumer goods, the price has gone up. Again, wages haven't matched that, because if wages have to match that, that'll raise prices even more. So what has had to happen is people are struggling. They put things on credit card, and then now the credit card's starting it. That is what is causing a problem. If that continues, the problem will be we'll see bankruptcies go up, which we could. But guess what happens in a bankruptcy? Do you lose your house?
No.
No, they homestead their house. Mm-hmm. That is the stable entity that you can have and protect the equity, is when you do that. So that is where I think could possibly go up, is not the foreclosures, but the bankruptcies. I think we're going to see that.
Another thing I think people don't realize is that before you start, when you get in trouble, there is mortgage assistance. There is a way to call and redo that mortgage if you start getting behind before you lose that property. Mm-hmm. And, also reach out to somebody like a real estate agent and figure out, hey, what are the ways that I can get help? Even if they're just giving you advice like I'm telling you right now, there's mortgage assistance, there's this, there's that. Besides just selling the house, I mean, I had somebody call me to give me a referral on a client that, then this absolutely freaking killed me, had purchased their house brand new from a builder, had never made a payment from the day that they bought their house. Hold on. The lender allowed them they saved them.
Mm-hmm.
Never made a payment again. Saved them again.
Mm.
Never made a payment again. Saved them again. This is when I stepped in. And she's like, no, I'm good. The lender's going to allow me to, and I'm like, girl, you've never made a payment. Let's face it, you're not going to.
Right.
So let's sell this house because she had $250,000.
Put a lot in.
No, she paid zero down.
Oh.
She had $250,000 in equity that she had made over never paying for a house.
Do not go do this. This is not a recommendation from us.
I'm not. It's because of when she purchased it back in the 20. And I'm thinking to myself, you've got to be freaking kidding me. But the show, anyhow, I did look because she did not. She ended up losing this house, and I'm thinking to myself, girl, we could have just. She had $200,000 in equity.
So, another thing that goes along that is causing problems, why more people aren't buying and getting stable and increasing it, is we still have a lot of mortgage interest lock-in. If you look at the chart, it's at almost 51% of the mortgages that exist today are at 4% or less.
It's crazy.
That is crazy. They're at 4% or less. 'Cause let's just face it, if you owned a home from 2020 to 2023, 4, when did the rates pop up?
21. After 21.
23, they went way up.
22.
Okay. So if you look at that, you still got a good interest rate. Or you refinanced.
5%, 22.
So then, if you look at it, 51% are below 4% or less. 27% are 4 to 6%. So those people aren't refinancing right now, and a lot of them aren't moving because rates are over 6%. So if you look at that, that's a total of 78% of the people aren't really moving unless they have to move.
All right.
And so that is because of that, because they don't have to move. There's no inventory. If there's no inventory, I read where 40% of the 4-bedroom plus houses are occupied by empty nesters. Okay. They've got all these bedrooms. They're not giving it up for the next generation to move into to create first-time buyer housing now. So you have to understand that. And the other chart that we will put up is the one Betsy talked about. 2/3 have paid their mortgage. 40% have free and clear, and another 33% have more than 50% equity. So then one of my favorite charts I ever saw is on this page. We're going to talk about it, but when you look at it, mortgage debt is high now because the price of houses have gone up, but equity in homes is higher than it has ever been. In history, we have more equity in homes. That's why I think you shouldn't be seeing foreclosures. There's a rare instance.
It's crazy if people are getting foreclosed.
The foreclosure you'll see is somebody buys their house and closes on it, and the next week they worked for the major factory in town, and the factory closes down.
That's the only reason somebody should be getting on foreclosure right now. Other than ignorance.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ignorant people.
I don't want you to think that there's not reasons. There's reasons it happens. However, we have more equity in homes than we've ever had. And so please reach out to your real estate professionals. If you happen to get into that situation in coastal Virginia, or wherever you are, reach out to a professional and find out. Now, here's the question, the thing we hear all the time, and I just smile, is, are we in a real estate bubble? Are we just sitting here waiting? Are we set up for a huge crash?
My dad said that the market's going to crash.
Okay.
And I'm like,
it is not going to, yeah. It is not going to crash.
Please tell him to call me because he's giving you really bad advice.
Yeah. So it is not going to crash. In fact, if you look at the chart that we're going to show up here, is that if you look, the home prices rise over time. And it's just a fact. As a whole, home prices rise. Now, are there pockets with anomalies in them? But if you look at it, there was one year back 1990, that was from the internet bubble burst.
It was 80 something, right?
Okay, 1990.
Okay.
And so if you look at that, that's right after I got into the market. I got in 88 or sometime around there. It started to crash, internet bubble burst. The next time the market crashed was in 2007, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Those were some crash years caused by real estate and mortgage. Other than that, in the last 50 years, the market has improved. So guess what? Traditionally, real estate improves. And just because it's crashed before doesn't mean there has to be certain factors. And we just do not have those factors in place for the market to crash. So 2 windows, one for 1 year, one for 5 years, in the last 50 years that real estate has not gone up. There's never, I learned this in economics, there's never been a 10-year window in history that didn't improve in real estate. So when you take
crazy.
When you take a look at
There's only
it,
been that one time,
that it was extended.
and that was because we all know.
It was real estate and mortgage that caused it.
Yep.
And that just, it's not going to happen. The mortgage put all these safeguards in, and the fact is we have more equity than we've ever had in real estate. So because of
What
that,
did you say happened in 90 again?
the internet bubble burst.
Okay.
And so it happened, it affected nationally, but it affected so many major cities in the price that it caused a national bust. Like I say, right after 2 years after I got my license, it crashed. And so that's what caused me to actually move to coastal Virginia, was the market crashed in DC so hard because they had a lot of internet. AOL was based there. A lot of internet companies were headquartered up there. So this is our update. The last 2 videos, we've talked a little bit about what's going on. We will try to bring this to you more often as we get the information, because we know that the headlines you see on national news aren't always the way it is.
Oh no, and every time somebody asks me, hey Betsy, how's the market? It always does depend, because it does depend on what you're doing. Are you investing? Are you buying? Or always all those things. Are you selling? What are you doing? But also, and time of the year. So all of those things. But it's always a good time to buy. What's the best time to buy real estate?
Yesterday.
Absolutely.
The next best time?
Today. So if you're ready to buy real estate today, because I can't sell you real estate yesterday, give us a call, and we look forward to seeing you next time.